Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Policy Committee meeting for D303. It is June 30th at 4 o'clock. I got to get my agenda here, and we're going to start with citizen comments. And we have one citizen comment. During the public comment period, members of the public body who wish to speak are asked to first state their name and community in which they reside. Each individual will have up to 3 minutes to address the board on a topic of their choosing. We ask all individuals who address the board to do so with respect and civility towards others. Please note that personnel matters are sensitive and confidential. We also want to inform our speakers that all regular, special, and committee meetings are live streamed and available for viewing at any time on the district's YouTube channel. Personal information should be considered before making a statement that will be recorded and made public. While the board will not respond to today's public comment during this meeting, we are committed to listening to you to help support our work for the district and on behalf of our students, staff, families, and community members. Thank you. And Tom Batista.
Good evening. My name is Tom Batista. I'm now a former 7th grade science teacher at Thompson Middle School. Press issue 118 that's up for discussion today closes 2 gaps I flagged over the past year. Conflict of interest recusals added to policy 260. Whistleblower retaliation language added in the Section 5 personnel policies. My termination grievance and IDHR charge are still active. Under longstanding Supreme Court and Illinois precedent that procedural reforms apply to pending matters, I respectfully ask the board to apply these safeguards retroactively to my case and to any other matter now before the district. Doing so would correct the fact that I was denied conflict-free investigators and that my whistleblower disclosures and other protected actions led to me being described as unprofessional. This can be done without prejudicing the district because the changes are purely procedural. On Sunday, I filed a FOIA request for the red line drafts and legal opinions behind tonight's amendments. Whatever action the board takes, please record that these conflict recusals and whistleblower provisions must guide all pending grievances, arbitrations, or administrative reviews connected to my case. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this evening we are going to be reviewing policy updates from Press Packet 118. And so, Dr. Gordon, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. McCabe. Tonight we have 27 different policies. Of those 27, 15 are connected to 2 different aspects. The Title IX has 8 different components in it, and for our board members and others, we were under the 2024 rules. We are now moving back to the 2020 rules. So a lot of that is just changing the language to align to the new 2020 language. So you're going to see a lot of that. The other policy is policy 7255, which is actually the very last policy. This is a new policy that legislation has put into place. Its heading is students who are parents, expected parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. You're going to see, I believe, 7 different references just on that policy, where a lot of times it's going to be a footnote or something else referring to another policy. I just wanted to put that up there for our board because you're going to hear Title IX and that policy quite a bit as I go through this. All right, so our first policy is policy 2230, public participation at school board meetings and petitions to the board. This administration recommends removing the following sentence: petitions or written correspondence to the board shall be presented to the board in the next regular packet. As such, communications are already shared with the board electronically. So our board, how we operate, if a community member shares something with the board, the full board already gets that information, as well as the superintendent or sometimes board members respond to that community member, and that too is shared with the full board. So we're based off of our attorney's recommendation. They recommend striking that so we have clarity within that policy.
And this has been in the policy book before
Long.
email and
Yeah,
any
correct.
other.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has, it's very dated. So this helps clean that up. Policy 2260, Uniform Grievance Procedure. This policy has been updated in response to the state of Tennessee versus Cardona, striking down the 2024 Title IX Sex Discrimination Regulations, restoring the 2020 Title IX regulations, and also for continuous improvement. Footnotes within the policy are updated in response to the Whistleblowers Act, broadening the scope of legal protections for whistleblowers. In addition, Audra Christensen and Jared Buxton's titles will be revised from Executive Director to Assistant Superintendent. Policy 2265, Title IX Grievance Procedure. This policy has been rewritten in response, again, to the striking down of the 2024 Title IX Sex Discrimination Regulations and restoring 2020 Title IX regulations. Same changes with Audra Christensen and Jared Buxton. Policy 415, Identity Protection. This policy has been revised to address the safeguarding of information under grant awards and updating the definition of personal identifiable information and protected personal identifiable information. Policy 480, Accounting Audits. This policy has been updated to address the disposition and the retention of property acquired under grant awards, including an increase to the capitalization threshold from $5,000 to $10,000 for capital assets. Policy 510, Equal Employment Opportunity and Minority Recruitment. This too is a Title IX change, and will also have the changes with the personnel of Audra Christensen, Jared Buxton, and Marcy Conlon will serve as the district Title IX coordinator. Here we'll continue our theme with Policy 520, Workplace Harassment. This too has been changed to address the new 2020 Title IX grievance procedure with all changes to personnel. Policy 560, Expenses. This policy is a part of a 5-year review and had no changes. Policy 5100, Staff Development. This is the first of that last policy, which is 7255. This policy is updated requiring training for staff members designated as resource persons and complaint resolvers for students who are parents, expected parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. Policy 6150, Home and Hospital Instruction. This policy has been updated requiring the home instruction for students unable to attend school due to pregnancy-related conditions, the fulfillment of parenting obligations related to the health of the child, or health or safety concerns arising from domestic or sexual violence. Again, this is in relationship to that same policy. Policy 6235, Access to Electronic Networks. A new subhead is included in this policy to address the use of artificial intelligence-enabled tools in schools. Administration recommends that we include this section about the use of artificial intelligence in our policy. However, administration will create procedures aligned with this section in the policy so that we are recommending the policy is adopted, but the hard work is the procedural stuff going behind it.
And can I just interject here? So the actual language is coming from press, however.
Correct.
This is not something we're making.
This has not been touched by D303.
Okay, thank you.
Policy 710. This is a Title IX change that's stated in Policy 265.
I'm sorry, we go back to
Please.
the AI one for a minute? So what is the timeline when it'll be brought back, I guess, well, I don't know if it's this committee or learning and teaching regarding to the AI plan, district-wide plan and all that.
Great question. So that one, we're going to want to wait for the start of the school years, get a number of educators at all three levels, specifically at the high school level. That's where we're seeing it mostly. So your point's a good one. I think it would be up to the two different committees to decide which one it goes back to. Is it an L&T? Because that's where you're going to see a major impact to it. So I would probably lean to the L&T timeframe. So Mrs. Fairgrave, I would anticipate that we'd probably start seeing that first draft around that October time frame. Because I do think it's going to take some time and work to just to make sure that we're containing and making sure that we have some pretty strong guardrails as to what we're doing with AI within our schools and
Yeah.
for staff and delineating between staff and students.
But in the interim, though, until we have that, our message is we should not be using.
Yeah, correct. Staff, we have some work with staff that we're doing with some pretty limited AI tools right now. But outside of that, that's where our limited work is being done.
Students should not be
Correct,
encouraged or
correct,
otherwise. Okay.
correct. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
that's going to be, that's a pretty big statement to say students can't use AI. So I think we need to walk through that carefully before,
From
Here in the
from tools
policy.
that we've purchased. From
that's
it-
all it is tools.
For us, it's
Because of
tools.
it-
We have not purchased an AI tool for our students. So
I guess
if
my
they're.
concern is I wouldn't want English writing to be done with AI.
I totally understand your concern. However, I don't want us here and at this table to decide what student, without a lot of discussion and
Well, but then there needs to be some direction. If we're not going to have a district-wide plan at the beginning of school starting, there needs to be direction, not only for our educators, but for our students. So that's why when I read this, if you don't have the plan, then you can't implement AI
Without the-
tools. That's
and-
how I'm reading that.
And
But-
for us, we have to be engaged with our educators to come up with a thoughtful plan. So that's why I think we can be back in October.
I think she's asking for something before October.
I don't think so.
Well, I just did. I made the statement based on how I'm reading
Right,
this and
right.
the timeline, where we stand. And I think I'm hearing that you have a concern with that. So if that's the case, then there needs to
Yeah.
be something in the interim coming out.
No, I think the plan, and correct me if I was wrong, I thought what you had asked was, if we don't have a plan, what are we doing in the interim?
Right.
And there is no plan, and there's no interim. And it's already tomorrow, or we're headed into July. How are we going to have an interim plan without,
So you're suggesting then that we just let anybody use it?
no, I'm not
Okay,
suggesting
but
that at
that's what
all.
I'm saying then. There
No,
has to
no,
be a
no, no.
direction.
All I'm saying is that two policy board members should encourage administration to do what's appropriate, but to just say nobody can use AI until we have a plan needs to be discussed.
Okay, I'm just reading the policy.
So
As it's
we'll continue to do our work behind the scenes.
That's what I think.
And then we'll bring it back forward to the L&T committee.
It feels like
So
it's,
what happens when school starts and we have a middle school or a high school student that turns something in the beginning of September that has used AI?
So
That's all I'm looking for.
I appreciate the clarity. So for those tools, we already have tools in place that are detecting AI-generated materials. So that is already been heard.
That's true.
Outside, so what I'm saying, within the confines of D303 during the, let's just say, the 7:30 to 3 o'clock time period, we have to create procedures within that time frame of how we're going to have our students engage in AI. But are there students currently already trying to turn in AI work outside and turn it in as their own work? Yes. But we also have tools right now that are already catching that and having hard conversations with our staff are having with their students already.
Right, so again, all I'm saying is until there's a district plan in place, students should not be using AI. That's what we're saying.
Right, I'm not against anything you're saying. All I'm saying is, and I think you've answered it, we do have the tools to catch it. I
Yeah.
just didn't want us to make a blanket statement without knowing all the pieces that
Oh,
that go
okay,
in.
well, I knew some, okay, fair
Yeah.
enough, I knew we had that.
Okay,
All right?
so it's going to go to L&T.
Yeah, we'll bring it back a
Thank you.
a procedure. No, that was good. We did that one. I believe we're on 750. Policy 750, school administration and student transfers to and from non-district schools. The policy has been updated to include language when determining transfers. The superintendent shall consider mitigating factors, including the student's status as a parent, expected parent, or victim of domestic or sexual violence. Policy 760 is also in reference to this similar policy. This policy has been updated, permitting but not requiring the intra-district transfer of non-resident students who are parents, expected parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. Policy 770, attendance and truancy. Similar policy connection. This policy reflects the addition of adding more valid causes for student absences, including verified medical or therapeutic appointments in students who are parents, expected parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. Policy 7180 is connected back to the Title IX change from the 2024 back to the 2020 processes. Same as policy 7185, teen dating, violence prohibited. This policy has been updated to reflect the 2020 Title IX grievance procedure. Policy 7190, student behavior. This policy has several revisions, including the definition of sexting, criminalizing the non-consensual dissemination of sexually explicit digitized depictions, the definition of corporal punishment, the addition of delegation of authority to include staff, whether or not a licensed employee providing a related service with respect to a student, and staff have to enter incidents in school incident reporting system, but by July 31st instead of August 31st, or August 1st. Policy 7200, suspension procedures. This policy now provides that during a suspension review, hearing or expulsion hearing, students may disclose any factor to be considered in mitigation. Students may be allowed to appear with representative and support person. Policy 7210, expulsion procedures. This policy is updated for reasons stated in 77200, suspension procedures. Policy 7250, student services, support services. This policy is updated requiring students 12 years of age and older be annually notified in writing of the availability of school counselors without parent guardian consent and the designation of at least one staff member in each building as a resource person for Article 226A students. Policy 7270, administering medicine to students. This policy is updated for continuous improvement to clarify that students may self-carry supplies when authorized by their diabetes care plan and or seizure action plan. The next two policies are connected. Policy 7310, restrictions on publications, elementary schools. This policy is updated in response to the addition of the definition of sexting referenced earlier in 7190. Policy 7315, restrictions on publications, high schools. This policy is updated, reasons stated in policy 7310. Policy 7340, student records. This legal reference in this policy has been revised to restrict the circumstances under which schools may disclose information about a student's status as a parent, expected parent, or victim of domestic or sexual violence. In addition, it provides that a student's temporary records include information about the student's status and related experience as a parent, expected parent, or victim of domestic or sexual violence. And here's the overarching policy, this is a brand-new policy, is Policy 7255, students who are parents, expected parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. This is a new policy requiring districts to ensure they have policies, procedures, and resources in place to ensure that students are provided with support necessary to enable them to meet state educational standards and successfully attain a school diploma. Marcy Conlon will serve as the non-discrimination coordinator and Title IX coordinator, and Jared Buxton and Audra Christensen will serve as the complaint managers.
So just to clarify, so because of all the press that has been added, this new policy now is covered?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's what those original 7 were. This is the 8th being the policy itself. That's why all those 7 others had to be. And generally speaking, they're usually just minor or footnotes or other references back to policy 7255. Those are the policies.
Can I ask a question
Ask
back
away.
on policy 7.250?
Yep.
So just a clarifying question related to school counseling services, number 4, how is that defined? Because I noticed we crossed out the guidance.
Yes.
So
So that's been a change because the guidance was generally a level specific, so they've moved it to be more general, to be counselors. So as opposed to guidance, some school districts, they had guidance counselors, but they didn't have counselors. But overall, it was a change to make consistency. This is what a counselor, be it a guidance counselor or counselor, can have these conversations with these students. So it's the counselors that we think of in our high schools and in our middle schools.
okay, and is it, because I know there is some guidance out there around, in terms of topics. So is this bigger than academic that they can have a
On the
conversation?
725,
Yeah,
it is, it's really around that idea that they can access the counselor for potentially mental health, academic,
Okay.
all of those pieces that generally fit under. Now, if there's ever a concern around the safety of a student,
yeah,
the counselors are required
right.
to reach back out.
Correct.
So, but a 12-year-old and above has that right to access a counselor.
And then when you're talking about that requirement, that's as a mandatory reporter? Okay, and then so how will we?
Yes, on the piece that I
Yes,
mentioned earlier, yes.
Yeah, how will we communicate this annually to?
So that will be in
students.
our handbooks. That will also be, have we already printed, prior to this when we haven't printed, and we can make online adjustments. Thank you. So this will be adjusted into our handbooks because they're electronic, so we'll make those changes. And any that we do print, since they haven't been printed, we'll put it in there as well. So that will be that notification out there. I was thinking, Ms. Marsan, this is another one where there's that checkbox and within HAC when parents go through? Certainly. Yeah, so so it's even more explicit because I'm just thinking about myself as a parent, I may not have read every one of the student handbooks my children came to. So we're really trying to make sure that we're doing a better job than just checking the box on this.
Well, yeah, and to me, I read this, that really the audience is the student. And so I'm wondering, like even
Correct.
students.
I think it's a good point, just so they know.
Yeah.
They have that access. That's a
Yeah.
good point because quite honestly, when I first read it, I was coming from the parent side of
Yeah.
things, making sure that our parents were aware kids could access the counseling.
Yeah,
So I'll think about on both sides of
Okay.
that. Thank you.
yep, thank you.
And just to clarify, school counselors in this term can also be social workers.
Correct. It is that kind of broader term. Any other questions? Ms. McKay, back to you then.
All right, thank you. It's okay, we had it.
I don't know why I thought 4:30. Sorry. I had the same thing. I thought we were starting at 4:30.
We have in the past because it's tied to meeting ahead of time, but since we are the only one on the calendar, it's the agenda item we had today, so I will call the meeting to adjournment at 4:25. Thank you.